वेलकम स्टूडेंट्स। हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं द वेरी फर्स्ट न्यूमेरिकल फ्रॉम द 7th चैप्टर, दैट इज द थर्मल प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ मैटर. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. Now our first question says a glass flask has volume of 1 into 10 raised to minus 4 meter cube and it is filled with a liquid at 30 degrees Celsius. If the temperature of the system is raised to 100 degrees Celsius, how much of the liquid will overflow, provided the coefficient of volume expansion of glass is 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 5 per degree Celsius, and while that of our liquid is 75 into 10 raised to minus 5 per degree Celsius. Now let's quickly understand this question using a small diagram. So हमारा situation कुछ ऐसा है कि हमारे पास एक फ्लास्क है, something like this, एंड इस फ्लास्क के अंदर हमने कुछ लिक्विड डाला हुआ है लाइक दिस. एंड इनिशियली द सिस्टम, मतलब the flask and the liquid is at some temperature and धीरे धीरे we start to increase the temperature of the system. Now we all know कि with rise in temperature हमारा जो material होता है उसका volume starts increasing. So flask का volume will start to increase and so will the volume of our liquid. But अगर आप देखोगे the amount of glass that will expand is different than the amount of liquid which will expand because of their coefficient of volume expansion. So हमें पता चलेगा if we solve this कि liquid will expand way more than our flask, and because of this we will have some extra increase in liquid का amount which will no longer fit in the flask and now will start to overflow. And वही हमें ढूंढना है इस पूरे क्वेश्चन में, that is the amount of liquid which overflows. एंड नाउ दैट हमें क्वेश्चन के बारे में एक अच्छा खासा अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो गया है, नाउ लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द पार्ट ऑफ आवर सॉल्यूशन. सबसे पहला स्टेप, लेट्स राइट ऑल द डेटा दैट्स बीन गिवन टू अस. सो हमारे क्वेश्चन में द वेरी फर्स्ट डेटा जो हमें दिया गया है दैट इज द इनिशियल वॉल्यूम ऑफ द फ्लास्क. सो लेट मी राइट इट एज Vg, दैट इज द वॉल्यूम ऑफ द ग्लास फ्लास्क. एंड क्वेश्चन में हमें बताया गया है इट इज 1 इंटू 10⁻⁴ मीटर क्यूब. सो मैं उसे 10⁻⁴ मीटर क्यूब ही लिख रहा हूँ. ऑल्सो इनडायरेक्टली हमें जो है लिक्विड का इनिशियल वॉल्यूम भी दे दिया गया है बिकॉज लिक्विड हैज अ प्रॉपर्टी वेर इन द वॉल्यूम ऑफ द लिक्विड इज इक्विवेलेंट टू द वॉल्यूम ऑफ द कंटेनर इन विच इट इज. सो यहाँ पर हमारा जो लिक्विड का इनिशियल वॉल्यूम है दैट इज इक्वल टू द वॉल्यूम ऑफ द ग्लास फ्लास्क विच इज फर्दर इक्वल टू द 10⁻⁴ मीटर क्यूब एज वेल. इसके अलावा जो सेकेंड क्वांटिटी हमें बताया गया है दैट इज अबाउट द टेम्परेचर. सो द इनिशियल टेम्परेचर जो सिस्टम था, let's call it T1, was at 30 degrees Celsius, and then we raise this temperature to a new temperature, let's call it T2, and the final temperature is set to be 100 degree Celsius. इसी के साथ हमारे पास जो है कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वॉल्यूमेट्रिक एक्सपांशन फॉर ग्लास दिया गया है, सो हम उसे रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे यूजिंग द सिंबल गामा G, and the value is set to be 1.2 into 10⁻⁵ per degree Celsius, that is the unit for gamma. And we also know the coefficient of volumetric expansion for liquid, so gamma L, and the value is 75 into 10⁻⁵, and the units are again per degree Celsius. Apart from this और कोई information हमारे question में नहीं है, so let's move on to the next part of our solution, that is to write to find. Now to find बड़ा simple है, हमसे पूछा है to find the amount of liquid. So we have to find the amount of liquid that will overflow. Okay, so that is what we are required to find in our given question. Now let's try to understand what sort of formulas we can use to find this quantity, that is the amount of liquid that overflows. So अगर आप given data देखोगे, so the formula जो हमारे दिमाग में फट से आता है that is the formula to calculate the coefficient of volumetric expansion, gamma, and by definition it is change in volume divided by the initial volume into the change in temperature. And for our case हम जो है change in temperature लिख सकते हैं as T2 minus T1 because हमको final और initial temperature available है. So now this is the formula which gives us the value of the gamma, but gamma is already known to us, हमें given data में दिया हुआ है. So what we'll do is we'll try to find the formula to calculate the change in volume, and I'll tell you why we are required to calculate the change in volume or increase in volume. But first let me write the formula तो हम जो है ऊपर वाले फॉर्मूला को थोड़ा सा रीअरेंज कर देंगे, बिकॉज ऑफ विच आई कैन से डेल्टा V इज नाउ इक्वल टू गामा into the original volume into T2 minus T1. So a minor rearrangement of our formula gives us a formula which will help us calculate the change in volume. So the idea is हम क्या करेंगे, हम increase in volume ढूंढेंगे for flask and then हम increase in volume ढूंढेंगे for liquid, and हम इन दोनों के delta V या increase को compare करेंगे, and जो भी liquid का extra increase होगा that must be the amount of liquid which flows out of the glass, because वो amount of liquid flask में contain नहीं हो सकता. So now हमारा solution जो है वो pretty simple है, दो steps में बढ़ चुका है. First we have to calculate, so let me mark this. First we have to calculate increase in volume for our glass flask. So glass flask, and हम इस quantity को represent करेंगे as delta Vg. So this is the increase in volume for glass flask, and by the formula, that is formula number 2, I can say it is equal to the gamma of G times the V of G, that is the initial volume of the flask, into T2 minus T1. So this हम कह रहे हैं from formula 2. So from formula number 2. Now, if you were to see all the quantities, whether it is gamma G or Vg or T1 and T2 is already given to us. So a small substitution will give us the value for increase in volume for our flask. So the value of gamma is given to us as 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 5. Similarly, the Vg ka value is 10 raised to minus 4 into T2 ka value is 100 minus T1 ka value, which is 30. So let's try to simplify this. So 1.2, 10 raised to minus 5 into 10 raised to minus 4 gives us 10 raised to minus 9, and 100 minus 30 gives us 70. Now if we were to multiply 70 into 1.2, हमें जो है आंसर आता है as 84, and then we keep 10 raised to minus 9 as it is, and this gives us the increase in volume for our glass flask. And since it is volume what we are measuring, इसका unit होगा meter cube. So let me mark this as our first quantity, because we'll be using this quantity to calculate our final increase in the amount of liquid. So the second quantity जो हमें ढूंढना है, that is the increase in volume for our liquid. So हमने glass का volumetric expansion देख लिया. Now let's see कि liquid कितना expand करेगा, ठीक है? And हम इस increase in volume को represent करेंगे using the symbol delta VL, and using the same formula, that is I can say from formula number 2. Now if I were to calculate the delta VL, so that must be gamma of liquid times the volume, original initial volume of liquid, into T2 minus T1. ठीक है? And if you can see all the values, that is gamma L, VL, gamma L, VL, T1, T2 is given to us. So a simple substitution of these values will give us the value for delta VL. So let's substitute. So gamma of L, that is the volumetric expansion ka coefficient for liquid, is 75 into 10 raised to minus 5 into the volume of liquid. Initial volume of liquid is equal to the volume of flask, that is 10 raised to minus 4, into T2, that is 100, minus T1, that is 30. So let's simplify this. So 75, we keep it as it is. 10 raised to minus 5 into 10 raised to minus 4 gives us 10 raised to minus 9, and 100 minus 30 gives us 70. Now let's multiply 75 with 70, and if we were to perform the multiplication, we get the answer as 5250 and 10 raised to minus 9 as it is. And this is the increase in volume for our liquid. Therefore, its unit is meter cube. And let me mark this as our equation number 2, that is the increase in volume of our liquid. But हमारा task was not to calculate the increase in volume for liquid. If we were to see, question में हमसे पूछा गया है कि amount of liquid that overflows. So that value, that is the amount of liquid that overflows. So let me just mark it. Our final thing Therefore, the amount of liquid that overflows will be the total increase in the volume of liquid delta VL minus the total increase in the volume of glass flask, because this will give us how much extra liquid was produced, because of which it was not being able to fit in the glass, and that's why it overflows. So delta VL minus delta VG. So I can say, if we were to substitute the values from equation 1 and 2, where we have already calculated this values, I can say delta VL is 5250 into 10 raised to minus 9 minus, this is our delta VL, and then delta VG ka value, as we have already calculated, it is 84 into 10 raised to minus 9. So let me write that as well, 84 into 10 raised to minus 9. So what we'll do is कि दोनों ही equations में से हम 10 raised to minus 9 और 10 raised to minus 9 common ले लेंगे, and if we do that, so हमारा equation है वो बन जाएगा 5250 minus 84 into 10 raised to minus 9, as we have taken that common. Okay, so if we were to perform this subtraction, हमें मिल जाएगा 5250 minus 84 as 5166 into 10 raised to minus 9, and if we were to switch certain decimal places, this would give us 5.166 into 10 raised to minus 6, and the units are meter cube, because what we are calculating is in fact the volume. So this is now the amount of liquid or the volume of liquid which overflows. So amount of liquid which overflows, and that's it. We have successfully calculated the amount of liquid which overflows due to the change in temperature of our system. And if you want the PDF of the solution, make sure to check the link in the description. Have a nice day.